Welcome one and all. Tonight is mixing night, tonight is Friday night, tonight is metal night. And we are going back to a mix where I recorded the original version of this track all the way back in 2012. And we're going to have a dig into what I can do now with modern plugins and how we can get some really great tones without using real amps and without using real drums. And we're going to be using some new toys tonight. I'm going to be using the Neural DSP Parallax, the Archetype Nolly, and I've got some Drumshotz from Drumforge, which are really going to help the drums to absolutely punch. So first things first, roll the intro. So, we are running at a reasonable bit rate, I believe, and everything should be running smoothly. I have a very large glass of wine. Yes, that is about half the size of my head. It's a lovely, nice, expensive Argentinian Malbec, and it will be keeping me company throughout all this, as will anybody who's there in chat. So, feel free to say hello in chat, and do hit the like button if you haven't already, because that really helps us to spread the word and propagate the stream. Nice. And without further ado, let's talk about what we're going to be doing tonight. So, this is a band that haven't been together for quite a while, but we recorded this ages ago. And if I remember rightly, we threw this music video together for them on an absolute shoestring budget. This is a band called Disenchanted, and they sound somewhere in between kind of a mix of Paramore and Evanescence at this time. So in 2011, 2012, we're talking, yeah, like early Paramore. Evanescence were still quite relevant at that point. I mean, they've made a comeback since, that's by the by. But yeah, these were their major influences. And this is the original mix that we did with a very basic music video. So I'm going to play this for you. Then I'm going to play you a little section of this new mix. Then we're going to completely destroy the mix and then build it up again, using all the plugins bit by bit, and we're going to talk about exactly what we're using. So let's do that. This is the original mix of Porcelain by Disenchanted. This is including all the mix plus all the mastering stuff. We're not doing mastering today. So if I can get the sound better with just the mix than the original master, then I know we're getting somewhere. Here we go.
So intense on
And that was Porcelain by Disenchanted. And so this is the kind of thing that we're going to be turning it into. If I can bring some of this up. So it's much clearer, much more... I mean, this is the guitar now. And you can actually hear bass. So yeah, there was no bass player in the original video. If I remember rightly, at the time, the drummer, Mitch, played the bass on this track. It was either him or me, I can't remember for the life of me, because we did several tracks together over a period of a couple of years. Those guys were all 16, 17 at that time. So I think it's really quite impressive that they got the quality of playing that they did at that time. Mitch is now a personal trainer, I believe, the drummer. The singer Hannah's now aiming to be a doctor of philosophy, I think it is. She's very smart. The other two, I don't know, unfortunately. So someone just missed this whole song in its current form. Yes. Yeah, I'll just play you a little bit, then just as in A-B. Let's find a section. A chorus, maybe, if I can find a chorus. And now let's see where... There we are. So here's the new chorus. So this is by no means a finished mix. This is literally what I threw together today for the purposes of this video. So I'm going to, like I said, destroy this mix and bring it back. But I wanted to make sure that the plugins that I'm using, which I've not used before, did what I wanted them to do, got to know them a little bit, and also got to play with the new Drumshotz, which the drum kit now sounds like this. And without the Drumshotz, it sounds like this. Still good, but compare this. So this is that's the Drumshotz on their own. Awesome. So there's probably a bit too much detail going on the lead guitar's got too much what's the word? Too much delay, and I'm going to turn off the vocals for a second. I'm just going to listen to the rest, the backing tracks here. There we go. I just pushed a tiny bit of 1K on that Neve there, and suddenly those rhythm guitars came right forward. Cool, so that's what we're going to aim for. So... Everybody happy that that sounds decent? Are the levels right? Can you hear my voice properly over the music? Then we're not too loud. Also, if you've not already hit that like button, please do. And that'll help us to share this far and wide. Let people know that we're doing a nice Friday night metal mix with a nice large glass of wine. This is my first glass of wine of the evening, by the way, so I am straight right now. Definitely needs to be run through a Telray Echo. What does? Because I have something equivalent to a Telray. There we go. I've got a Telray in the Echo Boy, so we can do that later on. Yeah, YouTube notification failures. Welcome to YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Right, sounds good to everybody? Lovely. So, I don't want to play that. Yeah. Yeah, so Stalefish Effects in chat was being a wise ass. But hey, I got me a Telray. Let's bring up the Telray and there we go. Let's see how Telray sounds, because it's currently on Echoplex. That's quite dark. Might work in the mix, actually. Let's hear that under the lead guitar. Oh, that needs a lot less of it, but... I like it. I might stick with your suggestion there, my man. Hey, I am always open to suggestions if anyone's got anything cool they want to throw in there. So, without further ado, sorry, I'm trying to find space to put this large glass of wine down, because it's currently blocking my view of chat. You can watch this video after live, yes indeed. As soon as this stream is finished, because this is going to be quite a long stream, this will be available, on the channel as a video the same as any other video. I do like to make sure that everything is available for all of you lovely people. So, right, now that everybody's happy, let's destroy this mix. I'm going to hold down the Alt button and get rid of True Iron, Virtual Mix Rack, all of this stuff. I'm going to mute my drum samples. I'm going to delete Parallax, all my stuff on my rhythm group. Yeah, I'm going to delete all my amps. I'm going to delete those as well. I'm not going to delete the Mellotron on the main vocals because I spent ages on that. Same with the auto-tune. But I'm going to delete the Howard Benson, the mix rack, de-esser. I'm just going to turn off all my delays and reverbs and everything for now. And so this is our bare mix. And so that's how our mix sounds without anything on it, because all the bass and guitars are all DI'd. The drums, I'm using the drums are a setup that I chose for the previous video, which was the pop punk mix. So I copied and pasted the drum setup, so everything's rooted so that these drums go nice and simple, but they all go out of their own separate outputs: kick, snare, toms, hats, overheads, and rooms. And one we'll come to later, which is drum samples. We'll not come to that just yet. But one thing I do want to do is replace this snare with something deeper. Snare pearl brass. I'm guessing that's the deepest snare that the Chris Lord Algae pack has. Let's see what we've got. Brady 8-inch. Make sure that's all coming out of the right channels. Snare effect can come out. There we go. And the kick drum. What have I got? I've got a 24. Let's just see if I've got something really punchy. Single vocal track. I've got a single vocal track on the verses. There's a middle 8 section, and the choruses have an octave vocal, and then they also have harmonies that chime in on a couple of parts. So it's not just a single vocal, apart from on the verses, which is a style that I generally quite like, actually. I like to really bring things into focus in a verse and then layer them and stack them on choruses for extra effect. Now, there we go. HBE. There we go. So, I generally like 24-inch kicks, but let's have a look at the room tone on this kick drum. Turn that down, because this is a great kick, but for this particular song, I'm turning the sub down, I'm turning the room down on the kick, because there's a lot of double kick stuff going on, like how does Steven Slate Drums compare with Superior Drummer? They're just different. I used Superior Drummer for a long time. That was Superior Drummer 2. Before Superior Drummer 3 came out, I moved over to using Slate Drums 4. I just liked the sounds better, and then 5 came out, and then 5.5 has come out, and it just works for me. So, yeah. There's nothing wrong with Superior Drummer 3. Superior Drummer 2 I was starting to find to be a little bit lacking, because the samples just didn't quite do what I wanted them to do. But that's just a personal preference thing. And I was finding that the Slate drums, especially with the Chris Lord Algae pack and the Blackbird pack and the deluxe stuff, which are not necessarily processed drums, they're much more natural and raw, that I was finding that I very much liked them. So let's look at the toms from Blackbird. Yeah, cool. I don't think I actually use more than 2 toms on this. So I'm going to pull in that tom there and that tom there from the Blackbird pack. There we go. So I've got 2 nice toms now that ring as I would like them to. The kick that was a 24 before had a nice woomph on the bottom on the low end, but because I was saying this song too fast, I also have got 2 snares. But they're both quite low tuned, because I'm kind of going for that Paramore-y sound, like that whole Misery Business sound, which was a 14/8 Vinnie Paul signature snare. And deep snares just have a natural weight to the sound that's much easier to EQ and bring that out. Because this kind of song, just in my mind, just suits that. So I'm going to leave the cymbals as they are. They've got a SLT. I don't know. They've got Zildjian cymbals. China I don't think gets used in this song. If it does, forgive me. So these are our drum sounds. So the first thing I'm going to do, as I always do, is I'm going to put True Iron by Kazrog on the drum bus, because I have everything folded to come out of a drum group over here. And then I'm going to put the Slate Virtual Tape Machine on, which is the 2-inch tape. The default settings for drums, I'll just tweak the input a little, should just... Yeah. There we go. So if I turn on and off those altogether on the master drum bus, listen to the difference. Brilliant. So I'm going to use true iron. I'm going to turn out the output down there by a good 6 dB and then turn the master fader up on the drum group. So this is going to be a little quieter now. But I'm also a lot further away from clipping the master bus, which is something I definitely don't want to do. I'm going to put true iron on the master bus as well, which I don't tend to do anything with. The default settings work perfectly well. And that's just an extra mix thickener, which is brilliant. I'm gonna make sure you can hear that actually. And off. This is actually a really good section to do a sound check for the drums on. I'm just gonna loop it. So, the overheads, let's look at the overheads and then do the drum miking backwards. So, I'm going to pull up Slate Virtual Mix Rack, which I do all the time. Actually, I'm going to kill that and put the VST3 version on. No particular reason, but I'm using VST3s on everything today, so I'm just going to be consistent as I can. I don't know if it makes any difference, but what I'm going to do here is I'm pushing the high end a little bit, and the overheads are really well recorded and really well set up for what I like, but I'm going to put a little bit of shimmer. Is True Iron a compressor? No. True Iron, it emulates transformers. Transformers in analog equipment just add a certain richness, something that's very hard to describe, a thickness, almost a subtle saturation, because it's a giant piece of iron that the audio has to go through, and when you pass audio across a transformer, it kind of almost rings in a way, but in a pleasing way. It's very hard to describe, but it does a certain thing that we almost refer to as that 70s sound, that thick kind of thing, which is something I very much like and does pleasing things in my mind to audio. True Iron just has a selection of different types of transformer, and then the strength determines how hard you're pushing those transformers, and the crush literally just adds more gain so that you can crush the hell out of it, which for some things like electric guitars, for instance, that can be really pleasing. And if you're doing a kind of a 70s fuzzy rock type mix, you can really push this on a lot of channels and get a very pleasing genre appropriate effect. I find that on a mix like this, where it's that more modern sound, I like it, but if I push it too hard, it starts to sound like the detail is not there anymore after a while, because you get too much distortion, and too much distortion in the wrong places at the wrong times can be a bad thing. So, I'm going to really try and bring some character out of these drums. I've already got a distressor in this rack, so I'm going to put on opto mode, which is 10:1, with the attack at full and release at 0, which then acts like an optical compressor. And I'm going to hit play and then hold down shift and drag up the input, which turns down the output at the same time, until that starts to compress the overheads, because what I want is for the cymbals to have a bit more bloom on them. Cool, so that's going crazy. Let's turn it off. Let's go to a section that's got lots of cymbals. Yes. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the low end out of those overheads. And I'm going to push the compression now a little harder. And I'm going to use the mix knob there to bring a little bit of the original signal back so it's not just a squashed set of overheads. Cool. Now I'm going to look at the drum room. Wow, that's got a lot of low end going on, which I probably don't want all of that. There we go. So I've got a new mix rack, which I've just used the Neve low filter there to just take some low end out of that, because that on the kick will just get messy in the mix. And let's just nuke these a little. Cool, get rid of that SSL, put the virtual channel at the end. That now sounds like a massive set of drum overheads, drum rooms even. There we go, bring the overheads in lower, bring the kick in now. Now that kick doesn't need much, but what it does need, again, opinion time, get that virtual channel over there. What it does need is a little bit of an ultra low filter and a bit of a push at 1.6K. There we go. So that's now just the kick and the overheads in the room. Let's add the snare in. Now that kick's not, that snare, sorry, has not got much character. So let's put true iron just on the snare and crank it. Cool. See, by saturating the right things at the right time, I can get real character out of it. Let's listen to that snare actually without any plugins on. And then with true iron, suddenly that dunk has got a lot more attitude. And that's what I'm looking for here out of my snare, is attitude. It's a really well recorded set of samples, but I just want it to be more. There we go. So that's it. Without, with. So let's blend it in with the original. There we go. And a bit more 1K on that snare. No, it was 3k I wanted and a bit of a 1k dip, a little bit more. There we go, bit of 110 hertz just to give the snare some real low end weight. A bit of thickness over on Revival. A little bit of shimmer. Let's listen to that in context and see if that's done what I wanted it to do. Certainly seems to be getting there. And I'm going to unmute my snare verb, which is my usual FG2000 here. Which just... There we go. Just adds a little bit of 3D to that snare. Cool. Back to that tom heavy section. Okay, so those toms need superifying. So that's where Virtual Mix Rack comes in again. This time I'm going heavy on the EQ. Cool, so how's it sound without all that? And with? Take a bit of that low end out because it's probably going to be overbearing when we get everything else in. Cool, and I'm going to take the overall drum group down by a couple of dB now, so that's going to get quieter. Yeah. So those toms are routinely clipping by a dB or two on their bus, but that's okay, because True Iron and the tape machine kind of glue everything together, and then I'm bringing it down by a couple of dB anyway. True Iron on that drum bus, if you remember, has got minus 6 dB on it. So even though we're adding all these really heavily transient sounds together, we're softening them off as well, so we're rounding off any transients. Now we get really fun. So in the Steven Slate Drums sampler, you will have seen me doing all of this. What you won't have seen is this page. This page is where I've got the drum shots from Drumforge by Joey Sturgis Drums. The Drumforge, Joey Sturgis Tones, all those kind of guys. They make some great samples, and this is what I'm probably going to be doing in future with a real drum kit. So here is the drum sample channel already mixed in. So if I click on one of these and then look at the mix, I've got a whole separate routing for the kick and snare samples to go out on their own channel there, which doesn't get included in the drum bus, so it goes clean straight to the master. And let's listen to those. So this is the instrument window with all this kind of stuff, and then the samples. I've got some banging snare and some banging kick. So let's listen to them. There we go. So they sound quite ridiculous on their own. That's the thing about one-shot samples, is that when sample reinforcement is the aim of the game, which obviously it is here because we have some killer sounding, really good drums. I just want them to sound ridiculously over the top and superhuman, which is very difficult to do with even the best sounding real drums. This is where you add your sweetness. And this is where, in my opinion, you're supposed to add samples, is when you know you've got a good drum kit, well recorded, well gated, well edited, yada yada yada, all that. I drink from the bucket of wine. I salute you all. If anyone wants to drink along with the stream, if you are of legal drinking age, it is Friday night where I am. Feel free. This is my Friday evening with all you lovely people. So I shall enjoy what I am doing. So let's bring this up to be too loud for a second. I'm going to play the drums without the one-shots, and then I'm going to unmute these. So the ones I've picked, just before I do that, I picked the banging kick, and the banging snare. So here we are without. And then with. Wow. Now they're obviously too loud. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the fader on them way down and then bring them up until they do a thing to the mix that I like. Awesome. So I'm also going to look at these jumper tom samples. I'm going to drag in tom 2 with its room. Not sure if I like that. Sledge. Wadium. I do have to edit these to come first out of output 7, so they're not being affected by the kick. And then I have to adjust these. I think it's floor tom 1 that I want. No. So that's A2. So let's try floor tom 1 center. There we go. So I want that to be off to the left and loud. And then I want the same setup on this Wadium tom room. So output 7, left, and that was tom, extra rack tom. This is Slate Drums 5.5. I should be doing this on this screen, I'm sorry. There we go. So if anyone sees me doing something and you can't physically see me doing it, do give me a nudge, because I'm working across 2 screens here, and most of my streaming stuff is on this screen, but generally when I'm in the studio I've got 3 screens going, and I don't give a second thought to where things are apart from making sure I can see everything. So I just realised that I'm not showing you what's going on with the routing there. So yeah, my routing, has everybody been seeing everything that I've been doing with this so far? Because that, if I show you the samples, is how we get a big sound. Okay, so let's listen to them. Okay, so why is that not now being triggered properly? So that should be extra rack tom. So this is much more... Oops. Okay, so the left tom now sounds thunderous. I really must stop moving things around. It's a kind of a weird quirk, twitch of mine, which again I will apologise for, as I move things around all the time and it is quite annoying, I am aware. So I'm going to add tom 3 and tom 4, which should be... I'm just going to solo the drum sample again and make sure the mapping's right here. So this should be floor tom... might be floor tom 1. Don't know what's triggering that then. That was that one, which if I... So that's floor tom 2 center. So in that case, that should also... oh, that's why that's not coming out the right output. There we go. Get your routing right, Steel. There we go. And also make sure this one's coming out of output 7 and is using floor tom 2. Right, so whole drum kit. That's it without the Drumshotz, which sounds like a really good, really well mixed drum kit. Then you add in this. It's just no comparison. That's ridiculous. Awesome. Let's build this up by now adding in the bass. Parallel compression? Nope, not my thing. I'm parallel compressing on the overheads a little, which is where that mix knob came back a little. And I'm parallel compressing a little on the room, where I've got that nuke that's backed off to the middle. But I do that on those, and I don't then include the shells in any parallel compression, because I find that then just adds a squishiness to my drums that makes me feel seasick. So I let my close mics be what they are. There's no need to parallel compress the entire drum bus. Not for my opinion anyway. So moving on to bass. So this is where we pull up Parallax. Parallax is the new... I'm going to use VST here. So this is the new multi-band bass thing from Neural DSP. So by default it sounds like this. That's pretty cool. But to me, because the bass when it was recorded, and I think it must have been Mitchell rather than me, I have a really aggressive kind of bass style. If I'm playing with a pick, you know about it. So there'd be a lot more detail on it there. So what you can do here is you can solo. If I just turn off the mid and low, this is the low, which is just pure but with compression. There's a mid section, which you can drive less or more until it's just a mush. Then there's the high distortion, which again, that's just a mush to me. There we go. Yeah, to me that just sounds tinny. So what I did earlier is I went through and I created myself a preset that had more low compression, less distortion on the low end, and it used this 4-band and 2-shelf EQ and came up with this, which has plenty of detail in the mids that really cut through the mix. Let's see how this goes with... Ooh, oversampling, yes please. Let's see how this goes with the drums. Now, I would spend more time on Parallax. Oh, hello. Didn't know about the cab bit. That's more my kind of tone. A little 4-2-1. I can add more mid grinding with a 4-2-1 because for me, the SM57 has a nasty high mid honk, which just grates on me most of the time, whereas the 4-2-1, especially on bass, has a high end sweetness, a low end fullness, and doesn't have that horrible high end thing that I personally don't like. Just gonna bring the low end up a little. Right, now it gets interesting for you guitarists, because now we get to guitars. And what you can see here, and I'm going to go straight over here, is there were 4 guitar tracks. But I was finding that no matter what I did, whether it was real amps, virtual amps, anything, the quad tracking thing here, where it was 2 of one rhythm and 2 of a more detailed, more chordal, kind of interesting rhythm, it was getting mushy. Another request in the chat to leave the video on YouTube. Yes, that is the intention. This is going to be on my YouTube channel forever and ever. So don't worry about that. And I know I'm flying through a few things and going a little too fast in some places, but there's a lot to get through over the next 3 hours to try and really pull this together as a full mix that I really, really, really like. So on to Archetype Nolly. What I did is, I decided from the 2 tracks that were quite chordal, which one of those I like best, and I decided on the one that was just heavy, which one of those I like best, turn the others off, and then just hard pan them. And it gave me a kind of a Slipknot effect of, if you listen to something like Volume 3 by Slipknot, which is one of my favourite albums, one side is one guitar from Jim Root and one side is one guitar from Mick Thompson. They sound very different from each other, but when you listen to it as an overall stereo package, you just suddenly go, wow, I like this, and it's clear and it's crushing and it's brutal. So let's move on and load up the Archetype Nolly on guitar 2R. Which is the second set of rhythms on the right. So I'm going to bring it into the center while we listen to this. And this is the 3rd of 4 amps. So there's a clean amp. So that's the clean amp. Which is nice, but not what we need. There's a crunchy amp. Which is also nice. There's the heavy rhythm stuff. And then there's one for lead, which generally, I'm not personally convinced by this one, but that could be the Adam Getgood's taste for lead lines, is that he likes this one, which looks to me like a Victory, maybe a V50 Kraken. Not my thing. That's okay. So I'm going to go back to the 5150, which is this one. I'm pretty sure of it. I might be wrong. That might be the 5150. But I'm going to go with this one and make the assumption. So I'm going to take that gain down, go to the pedal selection and turn on the compressor and the overdrive here. Make it snappy compression. Oh no, just the tube screamer. A bit of top end boost there. Less mids. A bit less low end. More top end. There we go. I don't overly push the output on my 5150. Let's go to the cab sim. Start with everyone's favourite, the 57. And turn on the second mic, which for me is going to be the ribbon. Which is right dead centre. So that's the 57. And that's with the ribbon, which just gives me a bigger sound. I'm going to back it off a little. For both. Yes, that sounds pretty huge to me. There are some pedals I can add afterwards and I'm not going to. So let's go to a section where there's something other than just a chord going on. Cool. That sounds pretty tight to me. So this is the chorus. So now for this guitar, that is exactly the sound that I think I want. So let's move on and show you the problem that I was having. So I'm going to mute that and I'm going to open guitar 1 left. I'm going to center this. So this is exactly the same setup. I've literally just copy pasted it. But this, you'll hear there's loads of like tight chord grouping. And it's not super cleanly played. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to this slightly crunchier amp with less gain stages. There we go. So it sounded a little muddy in the mid, so just pulled a tiny bit of mids out, pushed a tiny bit of upper mids. Let's have a look at the setup. So I'm going to switch this to a 4-2-1. Hello to everybody in chat. Hello to Marty and Heavy Metal Mixer and Sam Humphreys. There we go, the bright switch, bit less treble and presence. That's so much cleaner now, but if I go right to the start, that sounds really heavy. Let's try a compressor in front of it. No. Now here's the clever bit. Now, I turn the other one back on, and I hard pan them left and right. sounds huge before I start mixing. So let's see how that works with the bass, rhythm guitar, and everything when that comes in. Now this is exactly what tends to happen with a real 5150 and a real crunchy guitar amp in my mix experience, is that I track them, they sound great, I then have to do a couple of things on the mix bus to make it sound exactly how I would like it to be. So this is where the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to bypass the virtual mix rack that I've just put on. I'm going to put True Iron on here, which I know is a bit of a go-to now, it sounds cliche. I'm going to really push it with some crush and do this as a comparison. So, without, with, so yeah. So yeah, when you push distorted guitars just that bit more, you get a real nice kind of thing going on. So I'm going to put this right near the end, the virtual channel, and I'm probably going to boost again, because I don't have any problem frequencies here, so there's nothing that I really need to fix, which means that I can just do my thing. Sounds really nice, but a little too loud, so I'm going to pull it back with the trimmer. Yeah, so I've taken my high push back a little bit there and pushed lower in the mids, more like 1K, because I just find that on stereo panned guitars, giving them a little push in that 1K-ish region gives them a stereo width that's hard to explain, but just that section of a recorded distorted guitar, especially when they're panned, just makes them pop out of the stereo field a bit more, which is what I want. I don't want a wall of white noise. I want the distorted rhythm guitars to kind of appear around the main vocal, so really kind of wide before I start using any widening plugins, which I might still do later on. And so an extra thing that I'm going to do here is right near the end of the song, and I am getting ahead of myself a little, one thing that I do is I actually let the other guitars play, so there are 4 guitars going just for the end. So if I copy that crunchy guitar over and I copy the heavy guitar over, they're a couple of dB lower, you can see on the mix here, but let's just play you. This is the 2 guitars, 2, 3, 4 guitars. So it's not very tight at the end because the guitars weren't recorded super tight, but because it's the very last chorus, it just adds a certain body to the song that the way I see it, if you're already in with the song, you're already in, and by that point in the song, you're not listening for flaws, you're already sold. So it just sounds bigger, which is an emotional response rather than a technical thing. It just feels bigger, feels good. And by reserving that extra guitar until the end as a creative tool, it just sounds monstrous. So here's the drums and the bass just before that. So, if anything, the guitars will get a little too big there and start to cloud the drums and the bass, which is why I turned them down a little more there. I am just looking for them to be like an audio sweetener. In fact, I might just turn the entire rhythm guitar down a dB. It sounds great in context, but once I get everything else going, I don't want to lose the drums. So let's listen to these together. Turn that kick sample down. So, a couple of questions in the chat. Does pushing the VU meters over the limit in VMR matter or not since it's digital? No, doesn't matter at all. So, the 0 in Virtual Mix Rack is an average RMS of, I believe it's minus 15 dB. So, if it goes over the plus 3, I've still got 12 dB of headroom if that was a solid white noise sample, which usually it's not. 0 on analog meters gives you loads of headroom in terms of a single transient, which means that they're relatively unreliable on sources like modern drums. They're fairly reliable on sources like an electric guitar where it is quite heavy, but also I don't tend to use them too much apart from to gauge how hard I'm hitting certain analog components. And a lot of analog gear, if you push it into the red and slightly beyond, can do a really pleasing thing, especially for like rock mixes where that extra harmonic distortion can be a really nice, good thing. Yeah, so that is not to be worried about as long as it's doing what you want it to do. That's where things like linking the inputs and outputs on the virtual channels, if you don't like what it sounds like when it's absolutely pinning, either back your input levels down, properly gain stage, or you can do the linked input and output thing. As a good example, let's just solo the rhythm group. So that's how I've changed the sound. If I kill it, can you hear a horrible fizzing on the guitars now? Oh, that's it in digital clipping, or at least analog overload. I don't like that sound, so let's back that off. There we go. So yeah, it emulates exactly what the analog gear would do. So yeah, also Major Prometheus says I could save the full stereo width on the guitars until the end. That is exactly what I have done. I personally like my main rhythm guitars to be one hard left and one hard right. I just like that full stop, but the extra there on the guitars is for the ending only. I don't tend to pull guitars in unless it's a real proper like verse structure that warrants it, because that's not my style, as it were. But it works quite a lot, and it can work well. When was this song recorded? If I remember rightly, it was the middle of 2012. This was recorded by a bunch of teenagers with a very young me nearly a decade ago. So yeah, it's actually not that bad, really. I just acquired some of my nice BBC equipment. These guys recorded this song and another song, and we mixed them in a day. So, you know, considering what we had at the time and how we did, I think we did okay. But now, with the benefit of hindsight and some more experience and some really great tools, I think it's really interesting to go back to this. So Okay, so from here, let's build on this by adding in the lead guitar. Yeah, that's not great. Let's get a copy of Archetype Nolly on the case. Let's try that lead amp. There we go. So I'll move the mics back a bit. There's automation on here so that the guitar is going to keep moving from left to right. I might just get rid of a lot of that. I'm not sure. But what that does is there are sections in the song where there's a main vocal and I didn't want the lead guitar to be in exactly the same center space. So I panned it off to the side so that the main vocal had room to breathe. But here's a section. Ooh. So that's the delay. Now it's in stereo mode. I think I'll be using this. So I'll be using it in half tempo because this was recorded. We decided the tempo was 186 BPM, which means it's actually 93, but we were doing it at double speed. There we go. So that sounds pretty cool. Try it with the other overdrive on. There we go, a little bit of a mid dip and a little bit of a high push. Let's see how that sits with the rhythm guitars. That is ridiculous how little work I'm having to do to this. I'm going to pull in a virtual mix rack just to add the sweetening thing and take the low end thumpy thump out of it. I might just have to add a super top end to the drums, and I'm talking a tiny, tiny little bit, for which I will use the air and just add a dB. save. Okay, so from here, I'm just going to mute the vocals just so I can bring them in one by one as we talk about them. What interface am I using at home compared to at the studio? I am using let's bring the camera out, an Audient Sono. This thing is really, really good. I'm actually using the valve in what's supposed to be the guitar channel right now with the cab emulation off for my voiceover vocals, so it sounds nice and rich and full. And it's a really, really useful interface, not just because it's got the inbuilt two-note stuff, who I am very good friends with, but it's got an inbuilt EQ for channel 1, inbuilt valve on that as well, which can be really nice. The DI is really nice and clean if you want it to be. If you want to use a DI box with channel 2, it's clean as you like. It's got an inbuilt reamper. That's a big selling point that I don't think Audient are selling enough. It's got literally a channel. Channel 3 of the output is 2 amp. It's isolated, it's clean, it's an active reamp that's super duper clean. And it's one of the best reampers I've used. And I just think it's absolutely ridiculous that they're not using this in the marketing. Like, hey, we have a reamper right here. Reamper, check it out. Yes, it's good. Yeah. So, anyway, moving on. This is where it gets interesting. Oh, actually, there's a lead solo which I'm going to talk about briefly. I'm going to copy over that Archetype Nolly and the mix rack. That's supposed to be going to this Echo Boy delay as well. I'm really going to push the mids on this. There we go. Is the Slate Air EQ supposed to be a Marg EQ? No, it's not. It's their own design. It's probably not too different, but it's designed by Fabrice Gabriel, not to emulate anything specific. It does like a super high, like 24 kilohertz shelf that just kind of does a thing that really is really nice. There we go. So... oh, 414, which I can change for 421. That'll brighten it up. Whoa. Now, the reason that I bring this up is that there is actually a wah pedal that we recorded using a MIDI controller. And so the way we did this originally, and I'll recreate it here, is I used Amplitude 4, but only... I actually used Amplitude 3, but the modules are the same. I turned off all the processing, so the cab's off, the amp's off. The only thing that I used was Amplitude's wah. And how did I do this? Yeah, sounds like a wah. I assigned a learn for the MIDI and just hit play. Yeah, don't need that extra overdrive if that's boosting the hell out of that. But yeah, Kirk Hammett, eat your heart out. I've now got an automated wah that's done by a MIDI CC controller going into the amp. So... So, that's a pretty cool lead. I think I'm going to add more reverb to it when we come back to it, and we will come back to it. But yeah, there's so many cool little tricks that you learn over the years. I just didn't have a wah pedal in the studio at the time. So what we actually did, if I remember rightly, is we did that, and we also reamped that virtual wah out into a real amp. Which, yes, you can do that. You can do anything these days. Science! Anyone who's tuned in lately, feel free to drink along with the stream. I'm drinking a very expensive Argentinian Malbec, because it's Friday night and I'm in the house. Yeah, MIDI wah. Who would have thought? So, you can even program it and you can record it later. So if you've got a guitarist who isn't comfortable using wah, you can get them to record without it and then add it in post. Crazy. So, lead vocal. This is Hannah. So, there's a few issues here, and she's a great vocalist, I think. Very Amy Lee inspired. First problem, I'm going to crank the compression here. Very, very, very dynamic singer in a genre that calls for not dynamic in a technical sense. So I'm going to crank the compression, and the second issue, which definitely wasn't her fault, is I think I picked the wrong mic. I think we used an SM7B, which was absolutely the wrong singer to do that on. But hey, hindsight's great. So I'm going to put this EQ pre-compression. I'm going to give her some high end. I know I'm going to need to take loads of low frequency out of this.
Living through glassy eyes, what made you so intent on my demise?
Cool. And I'm going to hit the tube warmth button as well to give it some more brightness.
Living through glassy eyes, what made you so intent on my demise? There's nothing wrong with being different, but somehow you still made me feel so small.
Cool, so it just looped back. So let's try that in the mix.
Living through glassy eyes, living through glassy eyes, what made you so intent on my demise? There's nothing wrong with being different.
I've just had an idea. I'm going to add mix rack like I normally do. It needs more compression is what it needs. That's the first thing. So I'm going to add the monster, if I can find the monster, and monster the hell out of this.
Living through glassy eyes, what made you so intent on my demise?
And then there's some low mid stuff going on. It still sounds a bit too full.
Living through glassy eyes, what made you so intent on my demise? There's nothing wrong with being different, but somehow you still make me feel so small.
So that's now compressed to death. That's got about 40 dB of compression on some sections. But the idea that I just had is I'm going to use Gullfoss. Gullfoss is my new favourite thing. Gullfoss can tame sibilance
Living through
and also
glassy
those.
eyes, what made you so intent on my demise? There's nothing wrong with being different, but somehow you still made me feel so small.
Okay, so I'm going to use Brighton a little bit.
Living through glassy eyes, what made you so intent on my demise? There's nothing wrong with being different, but somehow you still made me feel so small.
That sounds so much clearer than it ever has to me. And Gullfoss is magically just dipping down those really powerful low-mid things. Yes, good to see people in chat. If you got to go, you've got to go. Thanks, Sam. See you again. But yeah, feel free to watch the rest of this later on. So the last thing on this vocal that's really annoying me is there's some S-ing going on. So I'm going to de-S it. And what I always do is just use Aosys de-esser, find where those S's are. And again. Cool. So that's now doing a really nice de-esser, so I've got a nice bright up-in-your-face vocal. Okay, so that Telray is too dark. I'm going to change that Telray delay back to the Echoplex. Actually, I'm going to use the studio tape. Yeah, it's too much. So I'm going to turn the delay off on the vocal and I'm going to automate that later. So, the plate reverb. What have we got going here? So that's my usual Lexicon 480, but what I'm going to try and look for now is a bigger, more ridiculous vocal plate. You know what? That's got a ridiculous amount of pre-delay on it, but it's approved by Chris Lord Algie, so I'm going to try it. Let's try that with the main vocal. Love it. Cool, I can probably turn that vocal down a little because I'm starting to lose all the other instruments. Right, so let's move on to the next vocal. This is where it gets interesting, because this girl had a serious range. So I got her to do a really low vocal. So what I did with that originally, and what I'm going to recreate, is I really compressed this one again. But what I did with this, not so much low cut, and really stereoized this. So basically destroyed the mono compatibility on it, which is okay because it's not the main vocal. And if it folds and collapses and gets lost in a mono mix, that's alright because it's not the key focus. It's kind of what I would describe as ear candy. It's something that sounds nice. Oh, it's coming out a bit too loud. A lot too loud. Let's take the output down. There we go. So that now, without it, and with, that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna pull up a mix rack. I really do need to change mix rack to have my first strip be empty, because that's really quite annoying. So what I want is to take the super low end out again, and maybe just have a little compression on top. There we go. So that's it on its own, which is super weird and stereo-y. Now let's hear that over here. So yeah, at this point in verse 2, it switches. The main vocal becomes the low one, and the secondary voice is the high one. Why did that go there? Right, so now for the backing vocals, which are really quite pretty. They're a bit too loud. Or they were too loud. They need to come up a bit. Cool, so they all need quite heavy compression on each one of those to really nail them in place. So let's start with just one of them. I do remember spending some time coming up with the harmonies for this, because it wasn't really something they'd done before.
Don't like what you see. Don't like what you see.
There we go. Scoop the low end out of that.
Don't like what you see.
Don't need multiplier width echo. None of that. Don't need plate on that. That's on the group.
Don't like what you see. Don't like what you see.
And
don't like what you see.
yes.
Don't like what you see.
Yeah.
Don't like what you see. Then
And it's at this point that you realise that the backing vocals go on longer than the main vocal.
then you know I don't like what you see. I don't like what you see. Then you
So then you start to really nail your edits down.
I don't like what you see. Then you know. Then you see. Then you know what it was like to be raised on boys. Made me out of porcelain. They couldn't diagnose raised on boys. But now I'm stronger than the boys. Who's laughing now? Who's laughing now? Who's laughing now?
Very nice. So that's just some liberal compression. I've not even done anything on the group here. So, last but not least, I will go in and I will add VCC mix bus because it just does a nice thing. But make sure I clear out all the low end. See if this needs any work. Yeah. Yeah, so I just needed to take some low mids out there, which landed around 500 Hz, which is roughly what I would have guessed, because it was just getting to be overbearing on the main vocal.
Don't like what you say. Look in the mirror and don't like what you say. Look in the mirror and don't like what you say.
There we go. So I didn't need any high-end push because that was just killing it a bit. Bit of 3K just to give it a bit of poke and really taking out that 500 Hz thing. Let's try it in the mix. Whoa, that lead guitar there's a bit much. Jesus Christo. Automation, less please. Yeah, those lead guitars are now killing everything. Let's try the track without that lead guitar. There we go. A little too much EQ on that guitar there. Three, four. So what this tells me is the mix is great, apart from that lead guitar has always been a thorn in my side. So let's get this lead solo in place. Pushing the top on the drums a little. Maybe I do want to do a little bit parallel EQ there, just to parallel compression even, just to bring out some of that crushy smashy. So I'm gonna try that. Let's go for from here. Absolutely kill it. And then bring some in. Yeah, I'm running up against the same problem I usually run up against, which is I don't like the release on the compressor. I can hear it. In the mix, I can actually hear it go. Let's try FG Stress. Low pass on the input, that thing on the input as well. Distortion 2, nuke it. That might be it. There we go. I just copied Gullfoss over, which is taming those sounds on the wah a little bit. And that means I can boost it. I'm going to send that to the snare verb as well. You might notice that in a previous mix that I did, I had a room reverb which was helping to gel everything together. And today I've simply not done that. I think that's because with this being a fast metal mix, that feels like it might just add mud and not add any space. If you know what I mean. I know I'm using adjectives here that aren't particularly helpful. But let's look at this lead guitar again now, so let's just solo it. Right, so this has a lot of annoying frequencies going on. Let's really kill it with Gullfoss and see what that does. Let's see how that sits in the mix. Brilliant. So, I think we're on to the automation phase, which is for the vocal going to be largely volume and send volume to the delay, because I want to hear that delay at certain points. Like the delay send is currently turned off, so I'm going to have it really low until I need it, where I can absolutely whack it. I said whack it. Too much. Yes, there we go. Right, this is going to need a bit more than just a delay automation. This is going to need some clever automation on the plate, and maybe even a second really long plate reverb added into the mix so that I can kind of word paint here, because something I missed in chat a while back. Did I record the drums myself, or are they made with a drum program? Both. They were recorded with an electronic kit, a Roland V-Drums kit with all custom shells by a real drummer, which is why they're slightly not to the grid, they're slightly kind of trip over each other. It's not programmed, it is a real drummer, a kid called Mitchell Johnson, who's a much better drummer now. I'm not going to say anything bad about him, he's a lovely lad, and they were like 16 at the time. So, you know... I'm quite sure that with almost a decade more experience, yeah, it's one of those things. Fair play to them that they did as well as they did as young teenagers, because I don't know if I would have done that well at that age. I mean, hey, maybe I would have, we'll never know, but let's just crank this. Right, I want to crank the ooh into the... Yeah, not that much, but... Those oohs are definite word painting, and I want to push effects on them. I'm going to push the volume on that section that's the single vocal to match the rest. Too much. Too much. See if I can just push a little bit of the delay on that. now. Right, so what I want to do here is I do want some vocal effect, but I think I want to stop it dead. Right, so no delay at all. Yeah, so really hammer the point home at the end. Let's play the track back from the top, see where we're up to, if anyone's got any comments. I mean, I'm thinking of adding in a couple of synths just for the last hour, checking things over. So this is going to be the real kind of polish at this point. See about adding a little bit of size. Oh, yes. I think we're getting somewhere. Now, if anybody's got any suggestions, I'm thinking about adding a couple of interesting synth parts. Maybe like Mellotron strings in the chorus or something. Not loud, just kind of like a musical garnish, as it were. Something simple. I don't have an 88-note keyboard with me, so it's literally going to have to be typing things out. And in fact, I'm going to start colouring tracks because I keep getting lost. Track colour, one random colour, lead to be one random colour, rhythm to be another random colour, bass, and los drums to be that colour. Right, there we go. Awesome, we've got a rapper who's enjoying the session. Well, thank you for watching. Yeah, if anyone's got any ideas, kind of vaguely genre appropriate, I'm going to start by adding in a Mellotron. I've got the entire Arturia bundle to have a crack at. So I'm going to add a keys group. And I'm going to add in oh, what did I do? Where have you gone? Mellotron. There we go. Still getting used to this German keyboard on this thing. And yes, that is weird, I know. Mellotron V. There we go. Taking forever to load. Because that's how things work around here. There we go. So we're in D minor. So yeah, stringish type. That's kind of what I was thinking. So let's find the chorus. Oh, there's the chorus. Okay, so that's 8 bars, which if we're thinking in normal human terms is actually 4 bars. So let's make a new MIDI item. Let's put it on the screen where you can see it, because I keep doing that. Rectangles. I'm going to make this 2 bars long with a snappity snap. This isn't going to be super... Now, the Mellotron is one of my favourite sounds. But it's very, very mono, so we'll be doing something about that. So it's down to a C. I keep doing that. I'm used to the old Cubase way of working. Come on, straighten up. There we go. And then... there we go. let's see how this sounds on its own. I said solo. Okay, so that needs some work. It sounds how I would expect it to sound. And that with tons of delay. And this is where the Howard Benson vocal plugin comes in. Yes, I know it's a vocal plugin, but if I use their multiplier and width tools, let's see how this fits in the mix. Cool, it still sticks out a bit in that kind of 1K range. I like it. Let's just copy these across. Why is it only copying one? Why has it got all these send and volume delay things on that I'm pretty sure I didn't ask for? So it copied them. That's weird. Pretty sure I didn't ask for those. Clear those envelopes. Oh, yeah, that's because I dragged and dropped. It drags and drops all the envelopes as well. There we go. There we go, different chord structure at that point. I think we're getting somewhere. Again, any suggestions? Because I've got loads of stuff I could do. chord sequence is that? I think I could add two separate things in there. One that has a chord arpeggiator, kind of a bleepy bloopy backgroundy, and something that stabs in with the guitars and goes bam 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 bam. And maybe I could even use that as a callback later on. Let's see. Let's add. What forgot the Archetype make? Jupiter 8. That's probably got some nice bleepy bloopy kind of arpeggios somewhere. Don't want a quick tour of it because I kind of know this one a little. Cheers. All types. Sequence. Let's look for simple arpeggiator and press a button. Step length an eighth. Having said that, I know how this thing works. There's a lot going on. Come on. That's the sequencer, not the ARP. Where's the ARP? Not quite as simple as it first looked, is it, idiot? No, it isn't. Ah, well, I'm glad you agree. Boy. Go with the simple step sequencer instead. Oh, yes. So step length should be an eighth. Oh, I love it. Yeah. Right, so let's have that act a little. And the VCF resonance just a little. No, not that. Whatever next. Orchestral stabs from a Fairlight EMI. God, Major Prometheus, that's the kind of inspiration I'm looking for. Orchestral stabs from a Fairlight. I can do that. So this is going to need a new MIDI item. Yeah, that's brutal. I love it. So that's gonna need some serious filtering because I can't use that as it stands. So because it's got way too much low end. It might need, well, definitely need that. It'll need a little bit of compression. It'll need custom EQ to soften the top off, and it'll also need some sort of panner, I think, to make it not right in the middle. Can you download my videos with a bot? I mean, you can. I'm not going to stop you as long as it counts as a view. If it means, I mean, it may be against YouTube's terms of service, but I can't stop you. So, so I need this to go left to right. Smoothing. Literally like that. Not that wide. Let's see how this sounds when I start adding MIDI items. So there we go. So, effects. Voice one effects. Let's get. Always the most fun question from chat. I want to start making music. Which DAW is simple and useful? Unfortunately, simple is one option, useful is the other option. Pick one. Maybe start simple. Start with something like GarageBand, or if you're on Windows, then, I mean, I use Reaper for everything. In fact, there are videos online that show you the basics of how to get started, made by me. At the moment, the #1 basics video is just about to hit something like 250,000 views or something crazy. So, yeah, it seems like people like watching my videos about Reaper. So, that's what I'm using. That's what I think most people should use. So, yeah, that. Nom nom. Okay. Ooh, another good question in the chat. Using Slate Digital, do you think it's better to subscribe for everything and pay monthly, or buy the plugins that you need from them? Subscribe. Buying things off them is a stupid idea, in my opinion. You can pay like $200 for one plugin, or you can pay $150-ish for the year to have all of them. I've been using them since the subscription model started, and I've probably saved thousands, even now having paid from the very beginning, because I use them all. And when they come out with new stuff, I don't pay for it, it's just there. Why would you even consider paying for things separately? That's just my opinion. Subscription models are the way forward, especially when they're that cheap. There's no reason I can think of not to. Let's have a look. See if I can find a reason. Rate. If it's not live, then I can't make comments about the Alan Parsons project and poor string sound. Well, yes. Makes you shh. Yes, quite. For some reason, this is just slightly longer than 4 bars, which is why it's falling out of sync. But that's okay. Are we on some odd playback tempo or something? I'm gonna move that backwards. Too far? Just gonna push up the what doesn't. It seems like that line was slightly early. Right, with snap back on, let's listen to... Yeah, I'm liking the arpeggiator, and it's low enough down in the mix now. I think I'm going to have it pan wider than that, slower. So it really starts to pop out on either side of the mix. And I'm going to just drag over a Howard Benson vocal. And just make sure it's just got multiplier and width. Maybe a little bit of echo on there. Just to make sure it really stereos out. Seems to be a little early now. Right, so looks like the lead should come up quite a bit there. Bam, bam. There we go. So I must have done this automation a long time ago, because it doesn't have one of my favourite tricks, which is always bury an automation change underneath an event of some kind. Like that big boom from the toms. If I bury automation under it, I don't hear a sudden volume drop. Yeah, I'm happy with this. There's a weird little thing just happened there. That seems like it's dropped a beat. How have I managed that? Yeah, somehow I've managed to drop an entire beat because it seems it's because I'm an idiot. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but it's "Who's Laughing Now" is the lyric.
What doesn't kill makes you stronger.
This is something that Archetype synths do sometimes. There's a button at the bottom that says "Panic."
What doesn't kill makes you strong. What doesn't kill? What doesn't kill makes you stronger. Who's laughing now? Who's laughing now? Who's What doesn't kill makes you stronger.
Yeah. So we had a mention in chat from Fairlight Stabs. So let's bring up a CMI Fairlight, and we'll do that for the dun 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 in that first breakdown section. And I think that should be everything. And then we've got a mix that we've pulled together on stream. I've showed you exactly what I've done, start to finish. All types, strings, old strings. Need something that's a bit more stabby. That's not very stringsy. Scary story? That is hilarious, but not what I need. Stringnals. Ah, sounds of the 80s. Oh, I should have pulled the strings off a Mellotron, off a Fairlight. That's getting really nerdy right there. Oh, bit much. Vibrato speed. Filter. Vibe depth. A lot less. Damping. Click on the screen. It shows us everything that's going on. This is the 80s in action, ladies and gentlemen. This is serious, I'd say next level, but this is serious previous level stuff. So, yeah, I'm not going to go too far into this. I'm literally just going to take that Howard Benson thing that I've done, the stereoizer, and probably take some 3K-ish out and see how that sounds now. Back to the keyboard, my dude. Yes, it's got lots of controls and switches. Oh, that's ridiculous. Actually got the sound of the keys. Oh, it's gone to section F. No, I'm good. So this is where I'm going to get a little clever. I'm going to hit record for MIDI. Oh, that's not nice. Change the input to MIDI. MIDI from the virtual MIDI keyboard. There we go. That was a little weird. And view the virtual MIDI keyboard. So I'm actually controlling that with my computer keyboard now. So yeah. Sounds like Casualty, the old British TV series. Helps when you can play, idiot. So that should have been there. There we go. There we go. So now it's in there. It's much lower down. So it's noticeable. It lifts things, but it's not suddenly as wah as it was before. Yeah, so that needs to come... Rick Wakeman would be proud. Oh, if I had an actual keyboard, I could do a bit of a do-do-do-do-do-do-do. But yes. Let's play this whole song back, see if there's anything missing, anything needs changing, anything been screwed up. But this, arguably, to me, sounds a lot better than the original mix, which I'm going to quickly pull up now. This is the original mix and master. Oh. To be replaced with this. So we've got something that's meatier, something that's tighter, something that's more interesting. That arpeggiator needs to lock on to a perfect bar, so that's something that's worth keeping in mind. Might start that right on that bar. I might move that to the start of the bar. What have I done there? I moved something with a snap. Yeah, way too loud. Let's try that again. From the start of a bar. Yes. Yeah, I'm happy with how this has turned out. I might do a follow-up video tomorrow that's mastering. Although I did promise the wife, the soon-to-be wife, that we'd have the evening together, so it might be Sunday, so don't hold me to it. It would only be a short stream anyway. I'd be getting a reference track by a band who are in this genre, which means that video would be probably copyright flagged. So that would be a short one anyway. But yes, this stream as it is, I think this is nearly 3 hours long. This is a perfect time to call this a day. And yeah, this is what I would do with a song like this in 2020. Having recorded the band nearly 10 years ago, if I could go back to younger me and say, this is great, but make the band do it again tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter until they all cry and hate you, that is probably what I would do, because the source material is the hardest thing. Some of these like arpeggios and the arpeggiators don't quite fit because the band are pulling slightly fast and slightly slow, and which has a human feel, but you can have a human feel and still, you know, have Lucy Foster Drums. Hello, good evening. It is going well. We are just about to finish the stream, unfortunately, which is unfortunate timing. But we're going to be live again probably on Sunday and next week as well. All our streams on the channel start at 8 p.m. Because otherwise it's way too late, and because I have a child, I have to have a kind of a human schedule. So, how did I get such little latency? The audio latency for the... I'm actually getting 27 milliseconds latency, but that's because I've got it set up for the stream. I can see people in chat because YouTube and Twitch and Restream and everything has settings for low latency that's aside from audio interfaces. In the studio, I get 64 samples of latency, which is 1 millisecond, because I use an RME RADAT DSP thing card with a load of preamp banks attached. News today, I'm going to be doing a video with Neve. I am very, very excited. If we can pull it together, hopefully I'm going to get one of their summing mixers from AMS Neve in the studio very soon. Turns out their factory is right down the road from where I live. So when this whole issue that's going on right now, and I don't want to use the name because of the whole YouTube copyright flagging thing, is over, I'm going to be going over there and doing some really nice filming and making a nice video for Neve, because those guys are really cool, and I met them on the other side of the world, which is really stupid considering how close they are. But there you go. So yes, it's been nice to meet everybody who's not seen one of our videos and streams before, and it's been really good to see all our regular viewers as well. Do me a huge favour if you've not already and hit the like button on the video, because it helps more people see it. The whole video will be available on the YouTube channel probably about half an hour from now. It takes a little time to process. And yeah, later this week and next week we're going to chase this up with a little mastering video, which we're going to use a reference. Then we're moving on to an acoustic song, which has got loads of instruments going on. Then there's going to be, I think there was kind of a reggae-ish track. Let me have a look at I've got a folder full. Yeah, one that's a bit Fleetwood Mac-ish. There's actually a Christmas song which I might do for fun if we're still at it. And there's more pop punk. There's always more pop punk when I'm involved, because I used to help run a small pop punk record label, so got loads of stuff like that. But in the meantime, thank you everybody for tuning in. And yeah, do hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed already, please do, because it helps us to grow. And I'll see you guys later in the week or next week. I'm going to be madly editing videos during the day tomorrow, because I've got our regularly scheduled content to make as well. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and ciao for now.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, feel free to check out our other videos, as you can find here, or check out our Facebook and Twitter, or our Patreon page, which helps us to make more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.